REDX community, welcome to another edition, an episode of the Stability and Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Zimmerman, with another exciting guest who's going to help us uncover actions, tools, scripts, things you need to stay and do in this market to stay busy, stay productive, stay positive as we encounter new realities of what is ahead for us. And so if you're on this right now watching live, say hi in the chat box, put some little notes in there. We've got a team of people behind the scenes right now who want to say hi back. Let us know where you're from and how you're doing. And the goal of today's show and every show is to help us understand the enemy amongst us, the enemy in front of us. And oftentimes I feel like these shows are going to put up a mirror and show us actually we're our own worst enemies. And so if it's not knowing what to say and what to do, we're going to cover that. If you feel alone and afraid, we're going to help you with that. If you're feeling like you don't know what tools to keep during this time, we're going to explain which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. And of course, we're going to give that to you through the perspective of someone who's out there doing it, knowing what to say and do during these times. That's why we've brought Cleve on the show with us. So Cleve, before we get into any more things, please give us a little bit of an intro.
Hey, Justin, thanks a lot. I am based in North Atlanta. My family's been in real estate for 30 years. I've been in real estate for about 20 years myself. I run a small team. It's a 6-person team. I have 3 or 4 administrative people, including one who helps us make lots of phone calls through REDX. And we do, let's just call it 180 to 200 deals a year. So if anybody's out there, once the market gets back to normal, if you have anybody moving to Atlanta, I'd love them to remember the name Cleve. Just remember it's short for Cleveland. So it's Cleveland Gaddis, and my nickname is Cleve. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad you gave yourself some self-promotion there. I think that's always called for. No. That is when the opportunity presents itself, must take it. So I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, don't feel sorry about that at all. And so I just want to do some quick housekeeping items for our customers who are watching this. I know we've got hundreds, if not thousands, who are watching these every day, especially new customers. If you haven't yet gone and taken your webinar onboarding orientation training, please go into your Gmail, search for Welcome REDX, click on that link and join that, because it's going to give you a lot of what you need to make sure that you understand all the ins and outs of getting started, because what we're going to talk about today really relies on you understanding what those things are. And so I'm sure Bryson, our success manager, is giving me a fist bump right now. Thanks for calling that out. So you're welcome, Bryson. Also, just want to let you know, again, I mentioned before, we've got some teams behind the scenes who are taking notes. And so if you're not yet on the email list at theredx.com/blog, wait for that pop-up to get the updates of this episode. And I would say about a week, we're going to have all the scripts that we've taken from each one of these episodes and compiled into something to send you. I know a lot of agents are calling in right now asking for those scripts. Please just be a little bit more patient. We're getting those prepared. We're getting those ready. And if you're on that list, we're going to email them to you right away. If you watch this after we get that email out, we're going to make that part of the opt-in. And so at some point, as soon as you opt in, that'll be part of one of the first emails you get. So whether you're watching this live now or in the future, you're going to get that. One last quick little thing here is, yes, social. Like and follow us on social, because we make videos pop up there. We're sharing all the breakdowns of the best pieces. Cleve was talking about that beforehand. He's following us, I think, on Instagram. And so we're finding the best pieces of what's happening and putting them to little action posts. So like us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the places that you spend time. And so a recent discovery from the last couple of episodes that David Knox brought to us in yesterday's episode was starting with good news. I think if we come into this right now, especially for the agents who are watching this, worried and wondering, let's start with good news. And what that has seemed to look like, Cleve, has been production. Agents knowing that deals are still happening, calls are still being made, maybe not cold calls in certain areas, but still activity and positivity and productivity. And so if you could jump into some good news to share with the audience right now, that would help lift their spirits and let them know business is still open.
So, it's interesting. In some areas, people have real restrictions on being able to work. Fortunately, I'm in a state. We do want to be careful. I certainly do want to acknowledge that what's going on is a real problem, and we need to take it on ourselves as our own responsibility not to spread coronavirus and not to be unsafe. But the reality is there are certain people who need to move. And so the coronavirus cannot stop people who need to relocate for a job or whatever it is. I did a little research, Justin, and you'll probably find this very interesting, but I did a little research because I wanted to see during the last downturn when the market got bad, how many sales took place every year, like in the worst time. I bought one of the larger brokerages in the state of Georgia in 2006. I would love for you guys just to think for a minute to yourselves to think what happened over the next few years. I mean, it was like riding a roller coaster straight to the bottom. And then having it stop and say, get off. but so I looked at it and I'm like, okay, what happened market wise? So, now we have say 5.6 million transactions per year. And even in the worst of the time, like when the market was awful, we still had on average 3.6 or 3.7 million transactions. And there was 1 year between 2008 and 2014 where we had almost as many closings for that year as we had last year in a good year. And so what I keep trying to remind myself of is that what makes people move has nothing to do with whether or not real estate agents can do business. What makes people move is life changes and marriages and divorces and kids and college and new jobs and unfortunately deaths in the family, all those kind of things. And I'm not trying to take that lightly. I'm just trying to say that the only way to shut the real estate business down would be for the things to stop happening that happen that make people need to move. We did a little research just in Metro Atlanta. And this was in the 7 days up through last Friday, so it doesn't include any data for this week. But there were over 2,000 new listings put in the listing service for the week. Over 2,000. Now, some of those were listings that had gone off the market and had come back on. There were almost 900 new homes that went pending for the week. That's almost 1,000 homes that went under contract last week. And there were about 1,100 or 1,200 closings for the week. Now, there were only maybe 300 listings that were withdrawn and 170 that were expired. So I look at the withdrawns and expireds as, hey, these people are losing faith in today's market and know they need to move on. And we don't need to be encouraging showings where you have people that are at risk or things like that. But 30% of the properties out there or 25% are vacant, and you just need to make sure and take precautions so that people are not actually touching the property and things like that to keep people as safe as possible. But business is still moving. I have a client who's on Long Island in New York, and I would say New York's restrictions on people getting out and about, they're probably as prohibitive as anywhere. They're still doing business. I talked to a person who is from about an hour north of Manhattan, and they're doing online open houses via Zoom. So they have the seller have their camera, and they do a Zoom walkthrough, and they invite all of the agents, the buyer's agents and their buyers to get on a Zoom call together. They figure out how to hide people's names so people can't tell who's on there, and they let the seller do this walkthrough. And I gave you a story from New York, but I also heard the same thing from Michigan last week, and I think they had 5 or 6 offers on a home that nobody has ever physically been in but the seller.
That's radically impressive.
Not my idea. I wish I had that idea. Down here, we can still do an open house, and if we do one, we just let people go in one at a time. We keep our distance. When we do showings down here, we go in and we wipe down everything in the home, and we open every door. Meaning, Justin, if you and I were to go in and look at a home, I would tell you, here's the rules. Number 1, no kids. You can come in with your wife if you want to. Don't touch anything. And when I say don't touch anything, you put booties on your shoes and don't touch a thing in the world, because we go through with our Clorox wipes and our gloves, and we open all the doors. So like we'll open the garage door and the door to the outside and the back door and everything. So you just walk through and take a look. So I think we all, and I know when people hear this, they think, I cannot believe he's still doing that. But we can't stop people's need to move. And somebody has to help them, and we don't need to put ourselves in harm's way, but we need to make sure that we can help them. I'm sorry, Justin, I need to stop talking and let you jump in here.
No, I'm feeling what you're putting down right now. I'm actually lifting my glass and saying cheers to the positivity and tone that you're speaking at, because this is the point of the show. If agents don't believe, which is what David Knox said yesterday, if agents don't have the fundamental belief that A, they should still be in real estate, and B, real estate is something they want to be in, then there's no point for them to continue listening to what we're talking about in this series. And the tools, the tactics, the technology, the approaches are completely worthless and meaningless if there isn't a belief and drive and energy to succeed and persevere. And so what you've just done for the audience right now is just, I feel like, fill the gas tank on the things that we're going to be talking about. I do want to speak to a couple of, I love the overlap. If you've watched every single one of these episodes, congratulations. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the attention that you're paying, but I'm talking to the audience, Cleve.
Yes.
But if you haven't, that's completely okay, because each one of these episodes is going to highlight some of the overlap and then detail some of the nuances, which what got me super excited about your Zoom, because two things you said have come up in previous episodes. First thing was vacant properties. That has come up over and over again. I don't know if agents really understand or know about those things. Vacant land, not vacant land, a lot of land's vacant. Vacant, yes. Absentee homeowners, vacant rentals. We have a service called For Rent by Owners. Again, I'm not trying to pitch products, but if there is a service that agents are flocking to right now, we're starting to see that have an uptick because of the reasons you just described. The health implications and resistance to selling a vacant property, the barriers are significantly less. And so we'll include a link probably in the show notes or somewhere on the screen or wherever you see it, or just Google FRBO REDX and you'll get a little bit better idea of what we're talking about. So I did a product placement right now for REDX. The second thing you talked about, which I'd love to get a little bit more details on, is agents are talking about using Zoom. And I think there are a couple of ways I'm hearing how they're breaking it out. And so the one you just described is actually different than the ones I previously heard. And so if we could spend a couple of minutes spending a little time, so tactically, anybody watching this can then go pick up their phone, know what to do, know what to say, because help me understand if this is correct. They're doing a showing and they're actually working with the buyer's agents who are then inviting their customers to attend. And so now it's kind of like almost a web broadcast that
it's live.
And so I feel like the tactics of that is just that's super cool. I just think you could call up all the buyers agents in the area and get them to attend this. Now, protecting the information, I think, is most important. So if you could jump into that real quick, I think that could be tactically something someone could take away right now.
Yep. And so in some markets, listing services are starting to allow digital or virtual open houses. So they'll allow you to advertise them that way. So let's say you got a hot property, it comes on the market. In the private comments, it says, we're doing an open house this Saturday, and every buyer who wants to look at it, as long as they're with their buyer's agent, just log on to this Zoom. Here's how you get there. And then the listing agent is not even at the home, because in Michigan and New York, they're not supposed to go there. So the seller does the Zoom tour on their phone, because when you have Zoom on your phone, you can turn the camera around, and so you can actually do a FaceTime video and turn the camera around, and the seller just walks through at the instruction of the agent. So the agent is guiding the tour and talking about it, so the seller doesn't put their foot in their mouth or say something they shouldn't.
That's awesome.
And they're just guiding the process, and it's amazing. Listen, I'd love to tell you it's happening thousands of times and thousands of offers are being written, and I don't know that. I've heard two good situations where people are getting some traction, but the reality is, Justin, in order to move real estate transactions forward, I don't care if you talk to a person who is trying to rent their house and maybe they want to sell it because they're scared. People who are landlords right now are scared. If you're talking to somebody because you've called a geo farm and you're talking to people in a circle prospecting in a neighborhood, if you're talking to a FSBO or an expired, when you get somebody who has some interest, the next logical step is a face-to-face meeting, meaning you can't move that transaction forward unless you can actually get face-to-face with them. Well, the problem is that physically we might not want to get face-to-face with them, right? Or it could be that they live in Texas and I'm in Atlanta, so the next best way to get face-to-face with them is on a Zoom meeting or GoToMeeting or Join.me or whatever it is. And so when you get face-to-face with somebody, then you start the process of moving the sale forward or moving the ability to be able to assist them forward. So however it is, we need to be creative. We have to get face to face with somebody. So if I called you, your house is listed as for sale by owner, and I say, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in, I think we can probably get you a little more money. I don't know if you'd be interested in exploring that. We'd love at least to be interviewed for the job. And I say, if you're at your computer, which everybody's like, well, I'm just sitting here at home by myself. So absolutely, let's jump on this. And once you and I see one another's face and we get to visit with one another online, the chances of me converting your business, maybe now, maybe later, go up drastically because other people are refusing to get face to face with you because of the situation.
I love this. I want to plant a seed for the audience right now because we're going to get to it. You have a very specialized system and acronym that we're going to get into, the methodology that you've, I guess, adapted to today's market. But before getting into that, open loop there, let's talk about scripts.
Very well done. Very well done. I was impressed. I'm impressed with the way you said that.
Open loop. You're not supposed to say that. You're just supposed to think it.
It's more interesting if I say what I'm thinking, because then the audience gets to hear that.
I want them to feel what's going on here. So a lot of people tune in. We get calls all the time, every day, for scripts. And under normal conditions, agents are still always looking to, what do I say under these conditions? What objections do I overcome? How do I do that? And so that's common, like everyday routine stuff. And going back to where we're at right now is it's still routine. It's just adaptation. And so I'd love to help the people who are calling into REDX right now, for the agents who are watching this right now, whose primary vehicle, primary mindset, primary approach to getting business is the telephone, and with our different lead services, expireds, FSBOs, geo leads, pre-foreclosures, whichever the ones you can speak to with the most authority that you actually are practicing. Can we go through your repertoire of those scripts and then just let the audience hear how you've adapted them? And so if there's one you want to start with, tell us and let's go from there.
So the answer is yes, and I'm absolutely happy to help. And I think when you're talking about scripting in today's market, I think there's three things you need to do. Three things. I think number one, you need to acknowledge things are changing very, very quickly. Number two, you need to give everybody permission in advance to do nothing. Meaning you need to give them permission in advance for not moving forward, waiting until it's over, or whatever it is. You need to make sure that it's okay. Because if I call you, Justin, and I say, hey, the only logical thing to do is for you to move forward in today's world, it doesn't matter how scared you are, that's not going to resonate with you very well. It's just not. No. And so if somebody asks, for example, how's the market doing? Here's kind of what we would go through. We'd say, listen, Justin, it's changing really quickly. And some of our clients are deciding to step back right now, and we're supporting them 100% in that, and we're helping them figure out what's next, because in a lot of cases, they're going to have to move at some point. But there are those who really need to buy or sell, and what we're doing is we're letting them proceed doing that with the procedures we have in place to be safe through smart showings, virtual services, and more. So what happens is that last part of the script gets used everywhere. So that's I know you're asking me what's going on. Maybe I've called you, hey, Justin, how's your family doing? How are your kids doing? Is there anything I can do for you during this time? I can't come over and bring anything, but I'd be happy to, call you at night and we can play games on the iPad if we need to in order to pass the time away. Really try to help you. And then if the subject of real estate comes up, acknowledge things change fast and it's very uncertain. Acknowledge that it's okay for the person you're talking to do nothing, because then it gives them permission to have a conversation with you, thinking you're not going to be salesy, and then tell them how you're helping other people move forward if they want to.
And so does that apply to all lead types? Have you just kind of centralized that, or is there adaptations for specific leads that you would nuance?
So on a FSBO or an expired, and most of those calls are made by our inside sales associate, we're acknowledging that the market is kind of crazy right now, and we're sort of asking if it's something, would they be interested in having any help from us, whether it's now or later, and we're sort of improvising that together. If we've had some communication from them but in the past, and we've talked to them, and we know they're a seller or we know they're a buyer, it really works this way. Hey, I'm doing a COVID-19 or a coronavirus follow-up call. Want to make sure you're doing okay, see if there's any way we can help you, and then opening the conversation of, hey, there are some people who still want to move forward in today's market. Not everybody does, and we respect that, and we help people figure out what to do if they're not comfortable. But if they do want to move forward, we help them move forward using our special procedures to make sure people stay safe in the process, virtual showings and whatnot. So we're just applying the same concepts in different ways to different prospects.
Let me ask you about what do you follow up with? So let's say, what are some of the common responses that you're hearing, and then what do you do if this, then that?
So let's just say, for example, we were calling FISBOs and they said, I'm really not interested in, proceeding right now. Then we would offer to set them up on what we call a market snapshot or a market watch, where we would let them know of any new active listings, any price changes, any pending, so they could really keep up with what's going on in their market. And we would set them up on that through one of our high volume lead gen websites. And then we would follow up with them. If we think they're going to want to do something in the next 90 days, we're going to follow up with them twice a month, typically during the week of the 1st and the 15th. If we think they're going to do something in longer than 90 days, we're going to follow up with them once a month, typically during the week of the 8th. Sometimes, depending upon our system, it'll just be every 30 days. And then when we're following up again, if the coronavirus scare is still going on, we're having the same conversation. So in today's world, we really need to find people to help. We're running into people, hey, I want to take my home off the market. I don't know how to do that. If it's on the market with somebody else, we're not going to tell them how to get out of the agreement, but we're going to suggest that they call somebody and have a conversation. If they're nervous about showings, we're going to share some ideas and best practices on how they can do that and be as safe as possible. Given the circumstances, we're going to talk to them about virtual showings. We're just going to share as much as we can, even if they're not our client. We need to help them.
Speaking of clients, maybe not clients, but I thought this was an interesting take. Dirk Zeller in one of our past episodes mentioned was one of the first things he helped his agents understand was, how do I talk to my pending deals that are scared and starting to consider dropping out? And so I'm sure 2 weeks ago that was more prevalent than it is now. Anybody who's still doing business may have absorbed the psychology and durability of things to come, but I'm sure that's still a conversation happening. And so with what you're hearing as far as pending deals, calling those potential sellers or buyers and sellers, actually, because maybe a seller doesn't want to move now because they have nowhere to go. So let's talk about both sides with pending buyer deals and pending seller deals. What are those conversations?
So I'd love to tell you that there's a script for that. What we have found is that as we try to call and get something that is rehearsed, it doesn't go over very well with our client group. Great. And so what we've decided to do is we've just put a no more than 3-day time limit in between them. And so we're going to talk to every seller and we're going to talk to all of our buyers that are in process every 3 days. And sometimes it's about, hey, we're getting ready for closing. We got to get your wiring set up. You got to get this, you got to get that. We're just trying to move on as if things are going to proceed without any changes. In some of our markets, we're like in the Atlanta market, we're not having a whole big cancellation rate, but average price of a home in Atlanta is less than it is in a lot of metro areas. We have lots of people relocating to the area. We had one closing took place today. He's moving here to get closer to his girlfriend. You can't ever stop that. He would probably pay twice as much as the house is worth because he lives in Virginia and she lives here. And so you can't stop that human element. So we're just staying close to them. We're not trying to be calculating in our conversations with them. We're not trying to put in their mind that they should or should not continue with something. We're just trying to be open and transparent and have as many conversations as we possibly can. And in some cases, we're changing the requirements for showings. And in some cases, people have decided to take their house off the market and put it back on in a few weeks from now or a month from now. We've certainly been supportive of them in whatever they want to do. We're supportive of them within our ability to do that as we can be.
Love that. And I just want to talk to the audience real quick. If you're loving this, make some comments, ask some questions, give some thumbs ups and some likes. I think this is really spectacular. I'm feeling like he's really unlocking a lot of good, positive approaches, mindsets, and vibes. And so if you're watching this, even if it's recorded live, hey, give some thumbs up and some likes on that. And I know that you've got a methodology that you've recently adapted. You want to tell us what the acronym previously was and what it stood for and what closing the loop, what it is now.
I never thought about it as a methodology. It is. So here's the deal. So I have this personality of a typical salesperson, which means I'm always looking for the result. Meaning you and I got to deal with one another. Boom, we're moving for the result. If I can't get the result I'm looking for, because your average salesperson likes to win, then they get sort of negative if you don't get the result you want, and so you go around feeling sorry for yourself, or you call your client a word that starts with a B and maybe the next letter is an I in the middle of you start feeling you're focusing on yourself and you're feeling bad about the situation. And so let's call this self-defense for realtors. And so it is a way of thinking about something that keeps me from thinking about myself. It is a way of thinking about the situation that keeps our team from thinking about themselves. Because I don't know, Justin, if you've ever noticed, but anytime you focus more on yourself than you focus on the people around you, it doesn't work out very well for you in relationships and families, on tennis teams, football teams, being part of a church. And so before the crash, we used the letters SBO, which is serve or service before opportunity, which said basically if you genuinely serve someone and you serve them without any obligation for them to do something, then there will be plenty of opportunity. But it still had the serve before opportunity, which means you expected opportunity to come. And so as soon as the started to hit the fan, and we knew this was going to be a bigger deal, we decided we needed to make a substitution. And so we swapped out the B for an R. And so now we're promoting SRO, which is serve or service regardless of opportunity. And it is such a weird thing. And I'll give you an example. Just picture for all of you realtors who are on listening, if you got a call last night at 9 o'clock from one of your prior clients who says, hey, Justin, we're in the process of purchasing this new home. And they gave you the name of a neighborhood that was right around the corner, Justin, from where you lived. And you knew that they were using another agent because you weren't involved in the transaction. And they asked you two important questions. They said, number one, here's the price we're paying for the house, and we'd like your opinion on that price. And number two, could you give me a good home inspector, because nobody's ever taken care of us the way you did in the past, and we trust your opinion, and we value your thoughts 100%.
I appreciate that.
You need to ask yourself a question as an agent: how would you handle that? And in most cases, an agent would not handle that well. They would almost be like, how dare you call me and ask me for advice when you're not having me involved in the transaction? And if you truly value what I bring to the transaction, why would you be doing something without me? And the reality is, people do what they do for selfish reasons, meaning they do what they think is best for themselves. And we need to create an opportunity throughout real estate throughout the country that is service regardless of opportunity, which means you need to help that same person with the positive intentions and the desire to help them make the best decisions as you would even if they were yours. Now, you have to be careful because you can't answer too many questions and talk about value if they're working with someone else, because in some states that's an issue, but help them the best you possibly can. And that is not easy to do. And so what we have to do is, a lot of us will sit around eating Reese's and not being in the bed, but being under the bed during the day. We'll feel sorry for ourselves. Nobody knows it the way we do. Nobody has it the way we do. Well, let me tell you, everybody in the country has it the same way you do. We're all dealing with the same stuff. And we just need to find more people to serve. I have had, unfortunately in our family, I have never been one of the ones who's had to be involved in a 12-step program, but I've had lots of family members who've had to be involved in a 12-step program. And my thought of those 12 steps is every single one of them says, stop thinking about yourself and think about other people, and everything will be fine. And the reality is, most of the problems we have as human beings is because we're thinking about ourselves and not thinking about other people. So service regardless of opportunity is think about other people. Could I share another thought with you, by the way, that I saw somebody say the other day that I think is just a great thing? I put it on the wall in my office.
Absolutely.
So as a team leader, and for most people, I mean, anybody listening, they're a brother or a sister or a mother or a father, or they're involved in families, they're involved in churches. And the issue is that they want to provide some leadership, but they don't know exactly how to do it. And so I saw a quote the other day that says, in the absence of leadership, the world tends to believe the worst in negative situations. In the absence of leadership, the world tends to believe the worst in negative situations, which means if we leave people alone, their default position will tend to believe the worst in negative situations. And it's not because they're bad people, and it's not because they're lazy, or it's not because they're negative. It's because thinking the worst is easier. So see, I don't have to do anything to just think, oh my God, the S&P is going to go away. I mean, if you listen to webinars, they say the value of the S&P and the value of the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones Industrial has got more room to fall. But in order to take steps to think positively about the situation, I have to actually do some things and read some things and educate myself and form my own opinions. So it's easier to believe the worst in negative situations. And in this quote, it was a guy named Jason Hall, who's I'm only friends with him on Facebook, and he teaches people to be property managers. And I'm just giving him credit because he said it and I couldn't find anybody else who had said it. But it says, lights are most beautiful when surrounded in darkness. So if we want to be a light to somebody, and if we want to be a light to a FISBO, or we want to be a light to an expired, or we want to be a light to a client who is struggling, we have to understand that as lights in the world, we're going to be most brilliant and most beautiful when surrounded in total darkness. So when we try to be a light, and you and I are dealing and all our lives are good, and I'm trying to be a light in your light, I don't stand out as much because everything's light and everything's bright. But when everything's going to heck in a handbasket in your life, and I come in to help you and provide genuine assistance, maybe that way I can be a true light.
That was a fantastic quote. Made me think of Christmas time. Also made me think about what we're all trying to accomplish right now, and who do we have to become as individuals to be the people that serve others. And I know that through our research and our dedication to our customers, our clients, our audiences, the community at large, that a lot of agents feel alone under normal circumstances. They feel like, I mean, you and I are fortunate enough to have teams and have built things into place where, you know, we wake up in the morning and I've got essentially a Zoom call with 30 different people. And I'm sure you've got all this connection going on. But what about the agents right now who are watching this? And this is what we're trying to do as a mirror for what they can do, is how can we show up for the agents who feel alone, which are probably like homeowners who feel alone, who their only access to information is dark information, right?
That's
Where's the light? And so that's what I'm most excited by with what you're bringing right now, is that the energy, enthusiasm, and connection to that things are actually happening. And if agents who are watching this can tap into it and see the things that you're saying to their customers, and together, I think is the strategy going forward, right? We're not asking for anything right now. We're not expecting sales of REDX to skyrocket because we're doing these videos.
No,
we're trying to follow in the steps of your methodology, is with service regardless of outcome or results.
Right. So I was just thinking about something. So if I was an agent, and I have plenty of problems to solve over the period of a day. So me having interaction with others, I don't always love my interactions, because sometimes I want to say, listen, you're going to have to get your head out of you're going to have to pull your head out of your small intestines. It's way, way, way in there. And so you're looking at it differently. And so I have tons of conversations. But if I was an individual agent out there working, I would probably try to create some sort of mastermind. I'd try to find 3 or 4 other agents in my area or outside of the area who were doing similar things that I was doing, and I'd probably have 2 or 3 awareness calls every week. Not an accountability call, but awareness. What are we doing? What do we say we're going to do? How are we performing? Sharing ideas, sharing best practices. You know, I might even say, let's have ourselves a happy hour once a week where we just get on the phone and just talk about nothing and just socialize, because we need that. I mean, we're meant to be social animals. So I think if people are out there and feeling alone, I think you need to find some other people you can help through some role playing and some scripting and things like that, and have some fun. And I think if you do that, eventually your lonely feelings will go away. In fact, if anybody decides, Justin, if they actually like the help that you provide, trust me, you will not be lonely, because they will ask you for it over and over and over again, which during this time might make you feel really good anyway. So I hate to do this, by the way, but I just have to. So I love John Maxwell. You know John Maxwell?
Coach John Maxwell.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I love his Monday morning minutes, or whatever they're called. And so yesterday, his Monday morning minute, or Monday morning, whatever it's called, it was awesome. It says, just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still in the game. And I thought that's perfect, because I'm still in the game, because I feel like I'm struggling. And I feel like with all my teams and my stuff that I'm kind of failing compared to the way I thought the market would be at this time, because I didn't expect to be dealing with this. You didn't expect to be dealing with this. And John Maxwell says it means I'm still in the game. And as long as I'm in the game, I got a chance to win. As long as I'm in the game, I've got a chance for a positive outcome. And I thought that was awesome. That like totally pumped me up yesterday morning. I
love that. We're capturing all these quotes, and so I'll just do a quick announcement for people who are joining us live. Just joined us, is that again, the REDX marketing team behind the scenes right now is taking down notes, writing down the scripts, coming up with what you've said and putting it into a format. So if they missed the beginning, they can follow us on social, and we're going to make the posts on Instagram and Facebook. And especially if they haven't gone to the redx.com/blog and opted in to get the updates for this series specifically, we're going to email them all the scripts. Now, little patience with that again, because we're still pulling them all from the past videos. And so if you're a customer, hold tight a little bit longer. We're going to email you them if you're on that list. And if you're joining this after we send it out, it'll just be part of the sequence after you join. I just want to let people know that they can take down their own notes, great, but also we're going to provide them to them in some future days.
Perfect. And if you need anything from me or want me to share anything, if you'll just have somebody reach out to me, I'm open book. I'll send you whatever it is. I'm totally happy to share, even if it's something that we consider our little secret.
Yeah, one thing that comes up when we get into conversations like that is in one of the past episodes, David Knox's one of his coaching clients talked about like a 5 or 7 step like card or PDF that kind of outlined his safe showing procedure. And so I don't know if you have any adapted collateral, postcards, scripts, visuals, things that agents can like immediately grab, take, and apply. That'd be great.
So I'll be happy to share it with you. So I think you need to have protocols for showing homes, for open houses, and I think then you need to have a system for how you do a virtual showing. So if you said Cleve, I'd love to see 5 houses today. You and I could go see them without actually going to see them. We could get on Zoom. I could log into the listing service. We could tour, look at the pictures, look at the aerial photos, determine which way it faces. We could do everything. And so there's lots of ways to move things forward. And so I think it's just having a process for handling that. I think that's the real key. So if you want, I can share a couple steps on what would be like protocols for showings now, or I can wait and just share the paperwork with you.
Why don't you verbalize them, and then we'll find a way to put them in the show notes or descriptions of the places that we put this video.
Perfect. So best practices, and we call this our showing process during COVID-19 scare. And number 1, we'll ride separately to view the home. So we're not riding together in cars. We're showing up separately. We'll do exclusive bookings only. So we won't set a time to show you and other people the property. It'll only be you. No children. So we want only adults in the home. We don't want anybody in the home that would touch anything accidentally. We'll minimize your risk at the home. We're going to arrive early. We're going to turn on the lights. We're going to open all doors, so you don't need to touch anything. We'll have sanitizers, wipes, and foot covers. We could also have gloves if somebody wanted them. I don't have a picture that I could show you right now, but we have a little baggie that has the gloves and things in it. No sick agents will be working. So all of our staff, if they have a cough, a dry cough, a regular cough, if they have any feeling that they're sick, then they'll get somebody else on the team who's not sick to go do the showing. We'll do no hugs, no handshakes. We're in the South. Hugs are a big deal in the South. So we hug people we know. We hug people we don't know. And then we'll follow CDC guidelines. So as homes become available, as information becomes available, we'll change the way we're doing things. And the key is you just have to have some type of protocol for doing that. So let me give a tip too, by the way, that we've been using. So we used to say, hey, Justin, you're a buyer, you want to buy a home, let's jump on Zoom and I'll show you some homes. But we didn't have as many people that wanted to do that. And so now what we say is we have a special opportunity for you to go through and as if you were actually there showing. So it puts you in the same position as if you were actually there, and are you in front of your computer, and they say just go to zoom.us and put in your information. We use Zoom because we think it's the easiest and it's what we know. But I would even do the same thing. So if I was talking to a potential FSBO or an expired, I'd say, hey, you and I can talk about things as if we were in the home. So I can get the seller to send me pictures and I can do a virtual listing presentation without even going to the home, where we walk through the home, we come back, we talk about marketing, we talk about pricing, all the things that we would normally do, we can do it virtually. We can do it online.
I love that. That's great. I don't want to get into any controversial topics. Not that what we're about to say is legitimately controversial, but I think you say the word controversy and people lean a little bit in. And
that's true.
Not trying to falsely pull on attention, but actually for you and I wanted to get your take on this. And I've asked every single other guest this question about sphere of influence marketing, and we are hearing repeatedly, and you can disagree with this, but the consensus has been now is quite possibly the best time to put sphere of influence marketing into place. And so if that's true for you, can you explain why that's true?
So I'm going to say it differently. So I don't think now is the time to do sphere of influence marketing. I think now is the time to care about your sphere of influence.
Great.
And in order to have a conversation with them, in order to care about them, you have to communicate with them. And if you communicate with them with absolutely no feeling of obligation, meaning if I help you right now, then you're going to have to do something for me, then I say absolutely rock and roll and go for it. But let me give everybody a caution. If you start calling your sphere and you genuinely want to help them, then you are going to spend half a day every day helping answer questions for people that you call, because there are people that are confused. There are people thinking, we don't know if we can send our kids back to college. We were thinking of moving at the end of the summer. We don't know how this is going to work. We're not sure how we can pay rent. We're not sure how we can pay our mortgage. And so you're going to have to do a ton of research. You're going to have to make yourself an expert on all of the things that people need to get them from here to there. And so I think if you make those calls and you genuinely want to help people, I think it can be absolutely amazing. But you're just going to have it's just our care outreach program. It is not, I'm going to stir up my sphere and try to get some business later. You don't have to worry about that. They are going to remember who called them in a difficult time, and they're going to want to use somebody who cared about them. So I'm sorry to kind of take a spin on it that way. But if you're making calls to try to help people, great. If you're making calls to try to do business, just stay at home and be quiet.
Gotcha. For the audience who hasn't seen Joe Rosen's episode, he gives some very specific tactics on the research side of what you've just talked about. So I think
he does.
Yeah. He talks about where he's going, what Facebook groups he's talking to, what his mastermind sessions look like with his kind of business, not partners, but like you would call them like local businesses he's created referral relationships with. And so he goes in there and does a great job of talking about how what you've just said is if you really want to help and you really want to get the answers, you got to have to know what to say. And so where do you go? And so I'd recommend people pop into that episode and jump around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that myself. I missed that one.
No, well, I'm glad I put it to your attention as well.
Yes.
So what do you think the big opportunity is right now? Let's kind of take it high level and see if we can jump back into it, because you've just unpacked a lot of things. What's the big opportunity? I know we're trying to talk about service before results, but there's still, you reap what you sow, and you're reaping some things here, and eventually there will be sowing.
So I'm gonna yes, and so this is gonna sound terrible, because the reality is that those of us who are strong in a time like this are going to be able to seize on opportunities that those of us who are not able to be strong through these times are going to miss. I think last count I heard is 1.4 million members of the National Association of Realtors. I've heard that about half of those have been licensed for less than 5 years, which means, unfortunately, our industry is not always the most professional anyway. And I'm not talking bad about all my real estate brethren. I'm just saying some people are not as committed to doing good things as others. And so when you get an economic shake, look at it like it's shaking the entire tree. It is going to shake a lot of our competition off. So the iBuyers in most of the big major markets have not only stopped buying, suspended their buying, but they are also canceling contracts that were under contract ready to close. A market where FSBO or an expired listing thought they had more opportunities, meaning I can do things, I don't have to deal with you. Maybe they don't feel like they have those opportunities today, and they just need somebody to help them. I remember, Justin, when the market started changing in 2008 and 2009, after I ignored the fact that it was changing for about a year, I finally decided, well, I guess it is changing and I need to change with it. And once I put down all my guards and I started saying, look, let me help people with where they are. It was amazing the opportunity that we got that other people didn't get just because we were there. And I'm not saying that the business was as good in 2009, 10, 11, and 12 as it was after that, but it was really very, very good. And there were lots of opportunities for me to be rewarded for my time, and for my team to be rewarded for its time, because the level of competition was going away. And in today's world, people who have a better understanding. So if you ever think, man, I know more than most people do who are doing real estate in my area, and I don't understand why everybody's taking all my business away from me, you might get an opportunity to shine because you can step up your level of service. So I think we need to focus all of our prospecting and lead generation efforts in today's time. We don't need to call people and be insensitive, but we definitely need to reach out and try to grow our business. I think for those of us who have teams or might be thinking about teaming up, we probably need to think about the opportunity to add an agent or two to our team. Because if they were in a place that was already a little bit stressful, some additional stress might have caused that pimple to pop, if you will, and they might not be liking the way it's going there. And so I think there's definite opportunities, and there's ways to serve and be pure with your intentions and take advantage of the opportunities that are going on in the world.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I do want to talk about something that's probably one of the underlying questions that everybody has is there's the opportunity, and then essentially there's liquidity. Cash is king. Budgets and finances are being scrutinized across all companies, large and small. And
Yep.
I mean, I know because we have customers who are calling in and saying we want to cancel our services, and we, just like you, are respecting their decision, of course, to pause those things. But one thing I'm trying to help those agents and customers who might be responding out of fear, not opportunity, is for someone like you to come on here, and if you could assume the role of a coach on the phone with someone who's considering what are the essentials that are going to keep them in business, the authentic answer of what are the things that are going to keep you afloat, not to cut those because they may be cutting you off from the opportunity. I'd like to think that REDX and things that you're about to say will be included on that list. No pressure, but I have a hard time thinking otherwise.
Well, so just so you know, I mean, we don't have any intentions to turn off REDX. I mean, we're going to keep it. And as soon as I finish this, I'm going to stop talking about REDX and I'll talk about some other things, because then it doesn't turn into a commercial for REDX, because that's not my intention. But it's an inexpensive way to produce some business over time, and especially we use the Onyx data and we use the dialer, and it just makes things so much easier. The Onyx data makes it where we make more calls, but eventually we hit the right person, and so it works out great. So let's just look though so I think you have to put things in two different categories. You have sort of your fixed overhead, and everybody out there needs to look at what government programs are available to them to be able to help their fixed overhead, help pay rent, pay utilities, some salaries, costs, because the SBA's got some great loan programs, and if you use it to support your staff, you ultimately can get the whole loan wiped out and not pay any of it back. So you get a chance to have the government help you pay your expenses, and also able to write off the expenses at the same time, which is quite amazing. So you put that one stack. I was just on a call before this one with an expert, which there's still so much confusion on it, but understand what benefits are available for you from the government. Don't be embarrassed. Get out there, learn how they work, and go take advantage of them. So, but when it comes to expenses that are designed to help me with the bounce, and a lot of people say we're having a pivot or we're having a shift. And I say, well, I think we're going to have a bounce. So I think we're going to have a delay, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's going to bounce. And I can't let myself or my agent start over from scratch. So let me just give you a little example. We have a guy on our team, and let's just say his name is Bill. His name's not Bill, but let's just say his name is Bill. And he is, to say he was the worst converter of leads, like he's probably worse than anybody who's listening to this call. Like, he was terrible. And we just hand people good business, but he couldn't convert any of the new business. And pay attention to this story, because it's really, really good. Okay. And so 2 Saturdays ago, before we realize as much that there's going to be a problem, he and I get on a Zoom, and we take every single lead that he's gotten in the last 30 days and we dissect them, and we talk about what program they need to be and how he needs to follow up and what he needs to say. And we just and the timing was just perfect. Now, he hasn't put 4 deals under contract since the beginning of this month, but he put 4 deals under contract in the last week, and he's out working with at least 2 or 3 prospects every day. And so I'm not saying that it is our job, Justin, to determine which people are in the group of I need to move forward by buying a house, or I need to wait, because they're in one group or the other. We can't change that. But what he's doing is he's connecting better with people who say I need to move forward now, and he's proceeding in a very, very safe manner to help them do what they need to do. And so I think for all of us who are on the production side, who are responsible for producing the income, producing the sales, we cannot slow down, because what's going to happen, let's just say if you're out there listening and you know you give services better than other people, if you lay low and you do nothing, then you're just causing those buyers to go work with somebody who won't really care about them at all anyway. And so if you're good, get out there and talk to people and stir up the pot, and don't be embarrassed about it. In these downturns, you know, entrepreneurs are the key. to make changes. It's entrepreneurs that are going to, figure out the vaccine, and it's entrepreneurs that are going to loan the money through the SBA. And so we don't need to be embarrassed that we still want to go out and do business. We just need to have pure intentions and not help people just for the reason to get some business.
You're an all-star. You really know that.
I don't know if I'm an all-star, but here's the deal. Justin, if I wasn't thinking that way, then there would be a very good chance that I would be thinking something negative that would not help me in the future.
You've got all-star thinking.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And it's really a lot of self-defense. You need to look at it this way, because if not, a month from now or 2 months from now or 3 months from now, I'm going to be starting over. And I don't know how many kids you have, but I have 4. And they're all daughters. And I have 3 who are in college now. And next year I will have 4 in college at the same time. So the reality is I don't have any option other than to figure out how to make it work, because I will guarantee you the University of Georgia and the University of Tennessee and the University of Hawaii, they expect their tuition payments to come in. You understand what I'm saying? And so I don't have any option other than to have the right attitude and make it work. And I'm not telling people who are listening be like me, because the reality is if people realize what was going on in my head, they'd say, God Almighty, he's just as screwed up as I am. Meaning the way I look at the world is human. I do half the things that I do wrong, but the reality is I need to stay focused, because I got to do it for myself and I got to do it for my family. And it's really the only choice I have.
Let's send this guy some referrals. He's got 4 daughters in college. He just put down some serious knowledge to brighten our day. I don't know any other way other than to thank you by asking our audience if they've loved what you've said today. If you've helped them out in any way, please reach out to Cleve. He's been a voice of reason for the last hour. He's been
a
solid, positive light amongst probably many people's dark days. If you're a producer and you're out there kicking it, giving you information on how to adapt what you're already doing to take it to another level. And I just want to say thanks, Cleve. We're going to be posting this video in a number of different places once again. Kind of the third repeat here for everybody watching who's tuned in since the last couple of times is follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. Come to our blog, theredx.com/blog. Wait for that pop-up to get on the list. That way you can continue to hear more fantastic speakers, more great information on knowing what to do and say during these times on the Stability and Opportunity podcast. We're going to send out the scripts. We're going to send out the slides. We're going to send out the information. Just be a little bit more patient with us. We're producing those on the fly in rapid succession. So just make sure you're on the list, and we're going to get that to you then. Cleve, I can't wait to have you back on the show, hear how things are going. I hope you get some referrals from this. And if there's any kind of final thoughts you want to send the audience off with for the day, I'll let you have the last word, and we'll wrap up from there.
Hey, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. It was an honor for you to include me in this. And the only thing I can share in the end is that for the next 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is, when we wake up in the morning, and when I wake up, I feel lots of obligations, and I'm not absolutely sure I'm ready to handle all those obligations, and I don't think I'm unique in that regard, but I have to do something first thing in the morning to get my mind straight, and I have to not get off of a normal routine. I have to stay on a routine. So the 2 things that I'm trying to focus on are, number 1, read positive information every single day. I was just looking to see if I could find my book, and I'm going to step away 1 second and grab it, because I'm going to give everybody the name of it. 1 second.
Sure. And so while he's stepping away, he's become the positive book.
I'm sorry, Justin. I didn't hear you. I took my headphones off. What'd you say?
Oh, no, I said you're reading positivity, but now you're becoming positivity for others.
Yes, maybe. So the book I'm reading right now is called Live in Grace, Walk in Love. Live in Grace, Walk in Love. It's by a guy named Bob Goff. And it's just daily thoughts. And a couple of days ago, it said basically don't love people who are easy to love people who are hard to love. And it was what I needed to hear that day. And so number 1, feed yourself some good positive information to get you going for the day. And number 2, have a routine. Get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, comb your hair, put your clothes on and go to work. Now, I happen to be coming to the office a lot of days because I'm the only one here. And so it's easier for me to be here, and there's less commotion and really probably less risk of me being exposed to anything. But number 1, feed yourself with positive information. And number 2, follow your routine. Pick it and stick with it. So those are my 2 pieces of advice. And it's what I'm doing. And some days it's easier for me to do that, Justin, than others.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you a REDX salute. We're going to wrap up right now. Stay on. We're going to do a little post show, just the 3 of us. And for everybody else, I'm Justin Zimmerman, Director of Content here at REDX. We've got an exciting lineup of other speakers. Cleve just laid the foundation, another stone, another on that wall for what's to come. And so if you haven't yet checked out the lineup, the rest of the week, the rest of the month, we've got speakers, coaches, agents, trainers, anybody who's got something to say that's positive and powerful in today's marketplace. We're bringing them on the show. If you're one of those people, email us. We'd love to speak to you and have you on it. But this is a place you can come for accountability, knowing what to say, knowing what to do. So we'll catch you tomorrow on the next show. See you then. Have a good rest of your day.
See you later, everybody.